Scenario is simple. Win for the Eagles, and they are in, or a Dallas loss. The Cowboys, the opposite. They need to win and have the Philadelphia Eagles lose. And in 3 straight must-win games, Carson Wentz has 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a passer rating north of 100, the first quarterback since at least 1948 with 30-plus completions and 0 interceptions in 3 straight games. Of course, none of it will matter if he can't lead these Eagles to one more victory over their bitter rival New York Giants. So
we have to win this one. It's just like the last few weeks. I think everyone knows that. Obviously we've had a couple emotional wins the last few weeks, and as leaders and coaches as well have done a great job of just making sure guys are still bought into this, in the here and now, and not dwelling on the past, not looking ahead either, and just going out to work. We got our work cut out for us against a good opponent on the road, and obviously if we win, we're in. So we know what's at stake.
All right, for the status on Carson's supporting cast, we found our way to Philadelphia and our Mike Garafolo. What is the status on his favorite target out there, Mike?
Zach Ertz not practicing today for the Eagles, Matt. That's the second day in a row technically, but yesterday's injury report was pretty much just a projection because they didn't have they didn't have a practice yesterday. So Doug Peterson said that Ertz is improving. He's got that rib injury. It's going to be a pain management thing, number one, but it's also going to be a clearance thing. Is he at risk for some kind of bigger injury here other than the ribs? Basically, we're talking about what the ribs protect. That's those internal organs there. So it's going to be a multi-layered thing to determine whether or not Zach Ertz is going to be on the field for this team this weekend. We'll see as the week goes on. Peterson mentioned Lane Johnson, the right tackle, indicated he might have a shot to play Sunday. I'd be shocked if that happened, to be honest. I'm told that they're more looking toward the postseason for Johnson's return. And here comes the good news. Jordan Howard, the running back, who has not played since early November, they are expecting him to finally get clearance on that shoulder issue that he's got going on later this afternoon. So they're looking as if Jordan Howard might be able to return now. Miles Sanders, the rookie, in the meantime, has been spectacular. But if you can get yourself another running back, maybe more of a physical guy like Howard is, to offset what Sanders does, that doesn't hurt you in Week 17 and potentially heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I would imagine Week 17, you look at the record, maybe you could ask, are they overlooking an opponent? But it's the New York Giants. I would assume they have 0 chance of looking past them.
Well, they just played a tight game a couple of weeks ago against this team, and they needed to come from behind, and they needed to really clamp down on defense to give their offense a chance here to come back here. So I'm not expecting it to be a runaway game. I don't think they're expecting it to be a runaway game. They understand that the Giants probably going to savor the possibility to play spoiler here. You also got Daniel Jones wanting to end things on a high note, his rookie career. You've also got Pat Shurmur making one last final play here toward ownership to say, hey, keep me in this gig for 2020. I've got this team closing the season strong, making a move in the right direction. Then you think about the stakes for the Eagles. Yes, Carson Wentz certainly has won over a portion of the fan base here that may have been doubters before by beating Dallas and getting this team moving without some of his top targets. But lose this game, and that goodwill will go away quickly if this team does not make the postseason. So big for him, big for Doug Peterson, and big for the coaches on the coaching staff underneath Doug Peterson, because should they lose this game, we might see some significant changes under Peterson on this coaching staff.
Yeah, all right. A big one for both the Eagles and the Cowboys, to which we will get to in a moment. Thank you, Mike. And meanwhile, you can take your pick of disheartening Dallas defeats that has led to this hand they have dealt themselves in not controlling their own path to the playoffs in Week 17, which means their head coach is getting peppered with employment questions.
I don't really think much about that stuff. Come to work today and do everything I can to help our team have a great Thursday in our preparation for Sunday. And that's what we try to instill in our football team, that kind of mentality and that kind of focus.
When do you think about your future?
Not a whole lot.
When will you?
I guess at some point in the future. That's an ender, right? Yeah, good to see you guys.
Well, for more on the Cowboys conundrum, we welcome in our Jane Slater from Frisco, away from the future employment status of Jason Garrett, Jane, and to Dak Prescott and his status, because that is certainly a little bit more important to the Cowboys' future.
Yeah, I mean, this game on Sunday has all sorts of implications. A postseason, and they make a deep enough run, Jason Garrett may not have to think about his future. But in terms of this one, let's talk about the health of this team. They've been relatively healthy throughout the season, but with a 17-week season, you start to see these bumps and bruises start to pile up, namely the most important one, quarterback Dak Prescott, who for the second straight day hasn't done much in practice, no throwing for 2 days. And then we're also not going to see a lot from DeMarcus Lawrence today, nor Tyron Smith. We also heard earlier this week that Leighton Vander Esch, their linebacker, is in his second year. Well, he's headed to IR because he's going to get surgery to help with that neck issue, although I was told that he should be back well ahead of training camp. So that means in this instance, they're going to need guys like Sean Lee as well as Malcolm Smith to step up and shore up that position that has been decimated by injuries.
And while many fans may be looking toward the draft and a higher pick and some standout college players, that is not the case for the players on the field. This is a Redskins-Cowboys game, and I would assume they are looking to play spoiler.
Yeah, well, of course, Adrian Peterson, a guy that I talk to typically ahead of this one. And, I asked him about the season so far, and he said it certainly has been a roller coaster as he sort of laughed at that question. But he said the one thing that he thinks that stands out is this is a team to watch next year. He said in the last 6 weeks, they've certainly played that well. In fact, in the last 2 of their 3, they've lost by less than a touchdown. And, I asked him, I said, with your season, how do you feel? He's 180 yards shy of yet another 1,000-yard season. He's done this 9 times in his 13th career. He's only missed out 4. He said he'd love to get it done, especially here at a place like Dallas, where he says a lot of people are going to be individually hoping for him to have a good game. But with most of his family being Cowboys fans, of course, he's from Texas, southeast of here. He said they, of course, want a Cowboys win. But he said he's heard what everyone's saying. Lose this game, you get a high draft pick. His response to me was, quote, screw that. We've got coaches that are playing for their jobs and players as well. They're coming in here to spoil this for the Cowboys.
Yeah, no doubt. You would expect nothing less in the NFC East in Week 17. Giants, Eagles, Redskins, Cowboys. Hard to beat, especially with the division on the line. Thank you, Jane. Picture. There are 2 spots that are settled. The Vikings will be the 6th seed and the final team in. The winner of the NFC East will be in the 4. However, 1, 2, and 3, the 49ers, Packers, Saints, and even 5 as you see it right now. Buddy Smith here, hoping your holiday season is all that you hoped it would be and then some, as we thank you for spending your discretionary time with us. At NFL Now, no asides, no pomp and circumstance. Instead, with so many Week 17 scenarios to sift through, let's start with what's new right now. He is our shrewd share of breaking NFL stories. Ian, we know Brees and Michael Thomas were limited in practice yesterday. So with the 1 seed still in play for the Saints, is there any chance Sean Payton would rest starters Week 17 against the Panthers?
Well, first of all, for Drew Brees, sounds like just knee inflammation. The Saints were being pretty cautious. Doesn't sound like much for Michael Thomas, limited with a hand injury. But to answer your question, in the words of Sean Payton, no, absolutely not. And that was pretty clear from Payton. I believe I did this right, 7 no's when asked if he was going to rest starters. This is not like anything that's happened in the past. The Saints really do have some things to play for, specifically seeding. They could be the 1 seed. They could be the 2 seed. They could be the 3 seed. We're all going to have to do a whole bunch of math on Sunday just to figure out who actually is going where, what is there to play for, what time are the games. This is basically going to be our Sunday, trying to figure these things out. But the bottom line, the Saints would absolutely benefit from a bye as much as really any team, especially when you consider that 2 of their top players are banged up. They have a lot to play for on Sunday, and it sounds like the Saints are going to play for it.
Yeah, no doubt, and especially when you think about road-home splits. Even though they look great against the Titans outdoor in December in Nashville in a bit of a cold climate, you mentioned the math we would have to do on Sunday. There's a lot of math surrounding the Raiders and their shot to get in. But their best player in 2019, Josh Jacobs, just underwent surgery yesterday. So what was the injury, and is he done for the season?
We've been talking about Josh Jacobs' shoulder injury, a fractured shoulder actually, for really much of the season. This was not that. I mean, he still has that, but this surgery that he had late last night, he posted on Instagram, this was not that. From my understanding, this is something that's relatively minor involving his lower leg. That lower leg